please help me welcome the Polaris Prize winning singer, songwriter, and producer from Baranquilla, Colombia, via London, Ontario, Canada, and Toronto, here to Calgary, Lido Pimienta.
Humbled. Very humble.
Welcome. So you're back home in Toronto after spending some time in Colombia recording your, spoiler alert, new record. I want you to set the scene for us because I don't know how many people here have actually been to Colombia. Can you tell us about, I guess, Baranquilla? Who lives there? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? Take us to your home.
Okay. So Barranquilla. I mean, my Barranquilla might not be the same Barranquilla for a lot of folks because I have never been regular. Like I've always existed in this confused hyphen, even as a Colombian, you know, like I should fit in, but I never did because I was interested in electronic music for a very, very, very young age. And I'm not supposed to because I am half Black and half indigenous. We don't really have those distinctions in Colombia, but to me, I was definitely one because I went to this school called the Lyndon B. Johnson School where you're not allowed to speak Spanish. And it was very hard because everyone in my class was like, you know, Melanie and Stephanie and...
It was an American school?
Yeah, like it was based in Colombia, but like all of the morals and everything was taught from, you know, Catholic, capitalist, U.S. adoring point of view. So I was a weirdo. Like not only am I not like blonde, you know, blue eyes, like my mom comes to school wearing this weird outfits, you know, like my food is like cooked, like like why don't you just like buy the whatever, you know, like, and those things, you know, that it's like, you know, like I was cultural, you know, like I would have kids like come and like they would like take like my hair and they would like put it under a microscope to study it because why isn't it straight? Like that was my Barranquilla. So because I went to this like bougie, like private school, you know, I rebelled against that because I didn't feel welcome in that scenario. So my Barranquilla, which the mainstream one is like Carnival. Yeah, it's just like Carnival and like Sofia Vergara, you know, she's like grew up there, you know. I actually went to school with Sofia Vergara's like first cousin, so she would drop by our school and like everything would stop. I would love it when she would come by because everyone in Colombia is horny as F. And so they would just like stop and I would just like just leave the school and I would just go home and like draw on my walls or whatever. So my Barranquilla was like metal. That was my shit. So I would just grab a bus and I would go to the south side of the city, which is not where the bougie people live, and I was in bands. I was 11 years old, okay? My mom never knew that I was taking the bus to go to, you know, like the periphery of the city, to be in like a hardcore metal band and like scream into a microphone. But like the microphones that we had were like pieces of shit. Like all of our instruments were like made or like scraps that we found. Like there was no, like when I moved to London, Ontario, and like I went to my first punk show, everything was like new. Orange, like the, you know, Orange, the brand, like the whole set of Orange, but they're punk. Like I just didn't, it made no sense to me. And I even saw one of the kids being driven by their parents in like a really fancy car, and I'm like, I thought that punk, never mind. So like it's always been like, I'm just confused, right? And in Barranquilla, like I just experimented, and I was lucky because I was able to infiltrate in metal, but also electronic music and also in traditional music. My voice allowed that to happen. So it was very diverse and very experimental and very dangerous for a 12-year-old. But I still don't drink and I don't do drugs, so it was fine.
Maybe that might surprise people to hear that there's a thriving metal scene in this Colombian city. I mean, it shouldn't, but maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that world.
I think Bogota has one of the biggest metal fan base in the world. We're really like, we compete with like, I don't know, Scandinavia or whatever. But yeah, it looks like some Colombian guy with very long hair, sweating a lot because he's wearing all black. And it's very hot. It's like 31 every single day of the year. Like, freaks, it's just like we hate everything. My metal friends hated my electronic friends. I'm never gonna forget. One of them was like, you know what music you listen to? That electronic music. Let me give you a song right now. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. You think that's good? Like, that is excellent. Actually, I love it. But that's kind of how I grew up, and like I still like, I don't care. Like, I think that music is great. I think that the music is great, and you should love all of it. And because also we're very mixed, right? Like, we have Spanish blood, we have indigenous blood, we have black, and we have everything. So when we listen to music, we are understanding it from so many points of view. Like, I understand it. Like, you play me anything, I will understand it immediately. It's not confusing to me, and the more foreign, like, I identify myself with it more. And I don't know, I think metal was just like, I was just able to scream, and like guttural. It just gave me this thing that I felt really good and safe. Because another thing about Colombian culture is that it's very how do you say, fake? It's not fake, but like, it's about appearances, and like we don't have sweet 16, we have quinceañera. And
for 15.
Yeah, so when you turn 15, like, what are you gonna get? Are you gonna get a flight somewhere? Are you gonna get a car? Or are you gonna get new lips? Or new boobs? A new ass, perhaps? So like, I was the antithesis of that. When I turned 15, I threw a metal show in my apartment building, and it was madness, but that's what I did, So I was just like this weirdo, like, even, 16 years old, like walking down the streets of Bogota, and I would have people like pointing at me and like, look at that clown, like, it would hurt me, but now I'm just like, yes, bitch, like, bring your clown, yes, girl, but back then you don't understand it, right? Like, you just feel like you're so out of the narrative of what it means to be Colombian and what it means to be a woman, because the fact that I wasn't wearing, like the revealing and the tight, and like my mom to this day, she's like her dream is to see me wearing like a J-Lo outfit on stage, like, and I'm like, I just don't think that it really goes with my message of like indigenous sovereignty if I'm dressed like J-Lo, mother, But she can dress like J-Lo, and she does. So good for her.
I wish we had some of the metal you grew up listening to play, but we do have some Colombian music that you told me you grew up listening to. So let's listen to something that is not metal, but is from Colombia. Do you want to set it up? This is this track.
Chambacu?
Yeah.
Okay. If people here are in electronic music, you probably heard this in some mix. This song has been remixed, I don't even know how many times. And a lot of producers around the world will email me and ask me if I want to do a version of this song. But the invitation never comes with a check attached to it, so I'm like, no. But yeah, this song is from Aurita Castillo. She was a child when she did this. She had this group, and they were like the song is called Chambacu. Chambacu used to be, I don't know, like the closest equivalent would be like a reservation. And the town doesn't really exist anymore. It's like this legend where, yeah, it's just like one of the places where black people or slaves would start making their homes. The second place is San Basilio de Palenque, and San Basilio de Palenque actually was the first free town from slavery in all of the Americas. So, you know, they have this relation. But what I like about this track is because I could see myself, because the track is really somber, as it is happy, and I'm all about that. So.
So that's a cumbia track. Can you tell us about cumbia?
Well, I think that track is really good because it shows the nuance of cumbia. Because cumbia is this genre that takes many shapes and many forms from Central to South America. And in the States, too, like the new generation of cumbia, you know, native folks in North America are making cumbia, you know. So this is just one of the many faces and shapes that cumbia takes. And cumbia is very important for Colombians, especially in the North Coast. I'm from the North Coast, and we love to dance our cumbia, and it's a part of our identity. But why I love this song is because this song is happy and at the same time is very somber. You know, when the guys are saying chambaku, you know, like that's like very like the intonation is not what we're supposed to or used to listening in cumbia, which is like "Weba," you know, like that is cumbia. But this is like, no, we're gonna get this little 9-year-old like tell us about how much she loves her boro, you know, that is no longer gonna be here, and we're gonna talk about how much we love it, even though a lot of classism and racism happens, because that's also another sad trait of Colombia. It's like we hate ourselves, you know, we love ourselves when it's carnival season, and then back to hating ourselves. So yeah, cumbia, like the cumbia in Argentina, you know, cumbia is huge, you know, but it also is like frowned upon. It's like the music of the poor. But then, you know, there's all this other this new movement of DJs and producers that are taking cumbia and they're adding like modern beats to it, and now it's like, well, yes, cumbia at the club. But I think it's also normal in any traditional music. You know, it's like these are the waves of it. But to me, you can add any beat to any cumbia music, but this track, it needs nothing. Like it needs nothing, and it's still relevant today as it was 50 years ago.
Can you give us a bit of, so you know, your music really deals in the fact that you're an indigenous woman, you're a black woman, you're Canadian, and you're singing in Spanish about all of these things and what it is like to live in that, in this body. But I'm wondering, and you kind of give us a bit of background, you went to this school and your scene is quite different and Colombian society is stratified in certain ways, but how did your kind of consciousness around these ideas actually develop? To the point where you're like, okay, like this is something I need to put into my arts practice, or this is something I want to engage with through art.
It didn't like an eureka moment. It didn't happen because it's just a part of my reality, and I grew up with my mother's family, which is the indigenous side. So when in your classroom, you know, when you're like a tween and, you know, the cliques are developing and like you want to be cool and you want everyone to like you, and, you know, but you just don't fit, and then you're always going to be a weirdo because everyone is going to Miami, Orlando for vacations or summer break or whatever, but you're going to the desert to help your uncle like kill a lamb, and then learn how to like properly get rid of the blood and use everything in the animal, like that's not cool, right? Like that's not cool. Like how am I gonna top going to Orlando studios with, yeah, there's no toilets in the desert, you know, like that's not. So growing up like that, you know, it's just my experience. So I just speak about my reality, you know. I don't sit on a rainy day and decide, well, today I should really write about how hard it is to deal with my period, and I should really talk about. I don't do that, you know. It's just like it just comes when I'm changing my baby's diaper, you know, when my son comes and he's like, so what happens after we die? You know, it's like, ugh. Can you ask me later? Let me figure it out myself, and then I can tell you, you know. And I'm washing the dishes for the kid, you know, and then a song will come, and then it happens to be about giving birth, you know. It's just like, whoa, what, you know.
So when you're 11, singing in this metal band, were you singing about what you're experiencing in school?
I wasn't singing about what I was experiencing in school because to me that was normal. Like, I didn't know that it was fucked up, what was happening, and like the microaggressions and the violence that I was experiencing and the othering that I experienced by teachers and the kids alike. It didn't really make sense until I moved to Canada, where we actually have those conversations. Like in Canada, we talk about everything. There is a couch for everything in Canada. In Colombia, if you start talking about anything, like you have to do it in someone's home, lock the door, no one can know what's happening because someone can get hurt, right? Like trans issues and indigenous issues. You know, when the president just got elected, in the week that he was elected, like over 25 activists were killed in their homes, you know, decapitated, right? So that's one of the reasons why I moved. When my mom started realizing what I was singing about.
What were you singing about, though?
The government and the president, like the oppression as young people. And because I was able to escape the bougie bubble of the Lyndon B. Johnson school, I would experience like what kids my age were experiencing, you know, in the peripheries. So I was like, this periphery is very similar to what happens in the desert and the north coast of Colombia, in La Guajira, which borders Venezuela, right? So I'm like, okay, like I need to talk about this. And even if I wasn't conscious about it, that's just my life, you know? Like I was just talking about, you know, how oppressed we were, how I couldn't wear whatever I wanted because of the, you know, here there's catcalling, over there it's like straight up sexual abuse. Like it's sexual abuse with like young little kids, you know, like taxi drivers. Again, I can't at 15 in a cab by myself. Hell no. Like you have to go with a whole crew because bad shit can happen to you. So I was not happy with those things. I also was reading a lot of Naomi Klein, and just like learning about Angela Davis. And you know, I was the only 12-year-old that was, you know, reading this stuff, you know, so that will just add to this, like, weirdo, you know, it's just like, yeah, but in the future, you're still gonna be, like, needing your parents to take care of you, and that's not gonna be my narrative, you know, but that's just what I did, and it's still what I do now. So when people are like, Lido, how can we cure racism in Canada?
My name's not Lido.
Right? Like when they say that to me, I'm just like, talk about it. You know, like, so I don't know, there wasn't like a moment that defined. No, it was just it's just the current. It's just my life, you know, and I just put it out there.
So we're gonna hear something that some of your music in a second, but I guess before that, what do you see as the thread between your early like metal days and the music that you're making now? Aside from the content, I mean, just in terms of the expression, whatever you're getting from the art making itself, do you see a connection between that and the kind of music that you're making now?
I'm just tough. I'm tough. And metal is tough. It's angry, and you really like screaming is great. Like releasing that anger is really great. And I've gone through a lot of turmoil and tragedy and bad stuff. So when I'm on stage, I'm very empowered. And I feel like I'm the baddest bitch when I'm on stage, and that's my stage. And I always say it, I feel bad for whoever has to perform after me because I just demolished that. And it makes me feel really good that even for those 45 to an hour minutes, like I was able to just like bring it, you know, and like it just feels really good, like it just feels really good when you're like that feels great, like that just feels so good, and then you hit them with that, and then you go like that. To me, that's fucked up. Like it's just like, yeah, like I just went from like down here to all the way up here, like life, right? Like because your life changes in a second. In a second, like your life will be fucked up or really happy, you know. And with me, the good it immediately after something good happens, some fucked up thing happens. So it's just like, okay, like I'm just like expressing myself, guys. Like I'm just like living my best life as best as I can, you know.
Okay, so with that, let's listen to a track from 2010, your first LP, called Color, and it's called Humano. Humano. So what can you tell us about that track? It came out in 2010, it's from your first record. I wanted to play that because I think, I mean, we were talking and I feel like your sound that's kind of the foundation of your sound, and you've kind of built up and around it. But yeah, tell us about that song, and then we can talk a little bit about the first record in general too.
Yeah, so the Color were a group or collection of songs that I had written while I was in Colombia. And then I, you know, moved to Canada, like learned about, you know.
You were 16 when you moved to Canada.
I was 19.
Oh, 19.
I was 19. And then I met Baby Light number 1, had a baby, went to school. And when I was making, this song I wrote actually in Canada after, any of you saw the Polaris thing when I was talking about an Aryan specimen that told me to go back to my country. So that song I wrote after someone told me to go back to my country, and it was about, like this thing with borders and just trying to, understand who I am or where am I going, and how in the end, we're just human. Also, I forgot to mention El Salvador in there, so I'm sorry, El Salvador. Next year is gonna be 10 years of that album, or 10 years of Lido Pimienta in music out there. So I should do another version and include El Salvador. So mental note. But yeah, like I just music, right? Like, where does it come from? It comes from how music heals and how music is always there for me. So when I put this thing on MySpace, I didn't know what was gonna happen because I just put it out there so that I could continue to be like in touch with my friends in Colombia that were on MySpace, like that was the only intention that I had. Like I came to this country with the sole intention of becoming, a visual artist and art curator, like I still have this idea of going back and making my own artist-run center or academy, music academy. Like I still want to do that. But someone heard it on the MySpace, and it happened to be like South America's biggest pop star, and that like catapulted into, okay, well now you have to go on tour. But that was it, like it was just an opportunity to me. Like recording music and learning to record myself was just, learning about my voice and how I can use my voice, later being introduced to like loop pedals and loop stations and drum machines. Like all of that helped me just like expand, at least the composition side, and when I'm talking introduce, it means a quick search on YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what that education kind of comprised.
Yeah, girl, like I didn't have no time to go to no school for production or nothing like that.
So you were learning as you were making.
Yes, because when baby daddy went back to the States, I moved to Toronto because I was living in London, Ontario. And I moved to Toronto, and I was like, here I am with my kid. And it was tough, right? Because I had 2 roommates. Tough, but it was great at the same time. And I just like the room that I shared with my son was, my first music studio, and I got a little like novation, and I was like, how do you do this and how do you do that? But always having the back of my mind, like I need to go back to this my voice, because that song Humano, like it has so many remixes, I've lost count. Right? Like just so many remixes. Like I always get like, it's always the Germans. Always the Germans. Like I made this remix, hope you like it. And I'm like, publisher, are they paying for this? Let me know. Yes, I love it. But yeah, like that, and that's when I learned like the electronic music. It's just like, you know what, like this is cool. Like I can transform this like very like beautiful, soft song, and I can take it to all these other places, and that really set foot into, what would come after when I moved to Toronto and I met my friends. I met like the scene, the electronic scene in Toronto. Like that's when I became friends with my friends there, that's when I was like, okay, everything is gonna be okay, right? So like I met Kvesche Bijons, he's also known as Spawn of Sid, and Blake McFarlane, Blake Blakely, and like we started making music together, and like it was the most special, wonderful moment, as a single mother who had like a horrible breakup, and thinking that I wasn't gonna be able to make music on my own. That was super great, and then I met Robert Drisdale. He's from Halifax. He's a composer who plays the clarinet. So I was like, clarinet, I'm gonna teach you some porro, baby. So that's what we did, and then Brandon Valdivia, he's in this group. His project is called Más Allá, and like he also uses like different flutes from different countries, so like all of us like got together and we're really making this. And then I always admired Prince Nifty. He's, look up Prince Nifty right now, go find him because his music is amazing. And I was like, Tenderness was another person that I was like, I need to learn from these people, and that's how slowly the sound in La Papessa started building. Me and Nifty would meet way later, but I was still listening to his music and just like, I need to learn how to make these beats, So that's basically how I was able to survive. I don't even remember the question, but
that's okay. Well, we can move on to you mentioned your voice being kind of this. I guess it is the foundation of this sound, but it being kind of a way for you to kind of reach into other genres by laying out this kind of simple, beautiful vocal track. So can you talk a little bit about how you approach the vocals in your music? Because you've got, first of all, you've got like used a lot of repetition. You're using the looper. You've got these different harmonies. What's your approach to kind of creating the vocal soundscape for your music?
Well, Colombian music, and the one that I particularly am drawn to the most, which is in the cumbia, tambora, bullerengue, and sexteto realm, it's all about call and response. So when people talk about tribal music, well, this is the real deal. And call and response is this thing of respect, and it's also the thing of including everyone in the song, making everyone that feel like they have a say. And I'm all about that. So palmas, just like clapping and voice and repeating a phrase, it's like you enter this trance. So that's why I love it. So when I was introduced to this, again, YouTube search, the pedal that I use, I was like, okay, very cool. I can have a group of people made of myself, because when I started working with the loop pedal, I didn't really have friends that I could sing with, so my voice had to do it. And even one of the songs that I did for the first album, like, I wanted this big choir, and I sent out this email to the local musicians, and no one paid attention to it. And then when we put it online, it had, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of streamings in, like, the first 3 hours or whatever. And I was like, well, I guess my voice is enough then. So that's, like, opportunities like that, when, like, someone says no, you still go for it. Like, when someone doesn't believe in you, you still do it. You know, when someone tells you that's weird, well, guess what? There's a lot of weird people out there that are gonna like it, and I'm gonna make my coin anyway. Thank you. So, like, with that rhetoric, like, I've been able to do, you know, live in a very expensive ass city and, like, have 2 kids, you know what I'm saying? So that's just where it came from. She's like, I have a strong voice. Not only am I loud, I love to talk about myself. But I also know that when people are listening, then that is my opportunity to, like, bring us together, because shit is fucked up. Like, there was a horrible terrorist, white supremacist attack yesterday in New Zealand. That shit happened at the beginning of the year in Montreal. And it's like we have selective memory. Like, it's like, it's not happening, I'm gonna buy the new Yeezys. You know, it's like, and believe me, I love me some shoes. I love that shit. But I want my kids to have a future. I don't want to be afraid when I walk down the street, and I have to use my voice. Like, if I don't use then what am I doing? Because if I just want to make money, then that would be even easier for me, because I can just talk like this and
put on the JLo dress.
You know, and just, like, really talk like, you know, Latina, and really, like, you know, because, like, being Latina and just, like, really work on that, like, fetish that Latin women have, you know. It's like, and use it to my advantage. I have no problem with taking money from, you know, people that are fetishizing me, and, like, you know, I have no problem with doing that. But at the same time, there's enough of that, of, like, what is expected of me as a Latin American, like, Colombian, you know. There's enough of that. So I just do whatever I like. Seems to be working. Let's see how far I can go.
Let's listen to a track that I think kind of pulls in some of this personal narrative that you're talking about here. It's from La Papessa, which is your second album, and it's called La Capacidad. La Capacidad. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can hear kind of all of those things you were just talking about, in that the repetition, kind of the stacking of the vocals. But do you want to tell us a little bit about what that track is about and why it was important for you to? It's kind of a centerpiece of your performance, I feel.
Yeah, if you ever go to a Lido Pimienta show, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of stand-up comedy. Because I'm always like, if the album doesn't work out, I will try stand-up. If that doesn't work out, then I'll try to be a cartoon voice. That's next to the list. And if that doesn't work out, I'll move back to Colombia and I'll just teach English. I have it also. You need a lot. I'm a Virgo. Anyways.
You're a woman with a plan.
So, after Baby Daddy #1, I met who I thought was the best man in the world, because he wasn't an artist. That's it. The qualification was, don't be a musician, you're the best. And he, this guy wasn't a musician, although in his head he was. And electronic musician. And we were like dating, and everything was nice. But then it wasn't nice, and I had to break up with him because he became very violent and controlling, and that just wasn't a good look. So I broke up with him, but then he didn't want to break up. He started sending me all these like terrible messages, and one of the messages was, "If you don't come back to me, I will put naked photos of you online." So, new to Canada, I didn't really have like a community, and like the few friends that I did have were like my white friends that, they go to the police, it's like, I can't explain to you how that's not gonna work for me. But, I did everything that I could to not have this guy like harass me, and I had to call my mom. I called my mom because she would know what to do, and she was like, "Let me give this guy a call. I got you, girl." And she was like, "Hello, Brian. I am the model of Lido Pimienta, Rosario Paz. Yes. How are you?" And he was like, "Yeah, your daughter, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, "Well, she tell me you want to put the naked picture in the internet. Put the naked picture in the internet right now." When it happened to Kim Kardashian, she became a millionaire. I don't want to work in the factory anymore, so please put the picture in the internet. And and he called me back, and he was like, "Your mother is crazy, and you're crazy. I don't even want to be with you in the first place." Like mixed messages, because, right after a man sends you a picture of himself crying, like, what do I believe? Your tears or your angry voice, And I just like wrote that song, and that's the story.
It's a great story. I know you've told it a million times, but
Never tired of telling it. Fuck you, motherfucker.
So you are a Canadian musician. You're winning Canadian prizes. Canadian. Collaborating, with a nice range of Canadian.
I to be Canadian government.
You've collaborated with, a nice range of Canadian artists, actually. Something that's quite interesting to me is the types of people you've been able to connect with. Astra, Shad, Narcy, Tribe Called Red. Have you collaborated with Tanya Tagaq, or are you just friends? Okay. Collaborated with Tanya, Sidani.
Which Prophet?
Which Prophet. But you're also making music that, I think for many people scans as quite Colombian. You're singing in Spanish. And so I'm not so interested in why you choose to sing in Spanish. Clearly, you're comfortable singing in Spanish, and that's fine. But what have you experienced playing this music out, playing shows in non-Spanish speaking communities and cities? How are people listening to that music? How are they receiving it? And what is that telling you about, the way people respond to your music?
I think that people don't mind. I mean, in the States is no problem. Everyone there speaks Spanish. And if you don't, you speak it by association. In Canada, I'm just fresh. I'm lit. It's like I bring something exciting, and people are into it, and I'm very vocal, and it's exciting to be a part of whatever I do. I wish I could write a song in English. I wish, but like the stuff that comes out is sad. I think that's what it is. Like I have like this line since, I don't know, like 10 years ago. It's like, interior design for brainwashing facilities. That shit is sad, right? And then I was like, no, I'm gonna write a song in English. And I was like, I've hit an all-time low. I've hit an all-time low. I don't have the look for that kind of music. That would be confusing. My shit is like, hey, hello. Like, it's a brand thing. If I do the songs in English, like, I will, because I want to tap into that coin. I do. I just don't come out. Also, the kind of stuff that I write are very cerebral, because I like the music to be non-complicated. I like the music to be fun. I want everyone to be able to play it. I want everyone to, like, remember it. So I don't do, like, now the syncopation is gonna start here, and then it's gonna go there, and then I'm gonna do this complicated. No, that's not what I do. But the songs are, there's a lot of nuance, a lot of poetry, they're very dark and somber, but it's always like Colombian music. Colombian music and Colombian dance is all about mocking the slave master. Like Son de Negro, for example, is this dance where the dancers are like making this like crazy movements, and they're like making these weird faces the entire time because they're mocking. But they're not saying, fuck you, slave master. They're saying, we're having so much fun here by the fire, singing our songs. And the slave master is just like, oh, they're those slaves just at it again with their noise, with their bullerengue. Bullerengue means loud noise, like bulla. So that was it. It's just like, let's just do our thing without telling you, but I'm still going to do whatever I want. So that's what I do. It's almost like a secret. But also in this landscape, people are open to listening to music in other languages that are not English. Yeah, but trust, the English record is coming. Trust.
You've got a little bit of English here and there on your new record, which we'll talk about in a bit. I think there are also, probably some people in this room and people watching who, might speak a language other than English, maybe are contemplating making music in a language other than English. What have you learned about like the utility and the viability of making Spanish language music in a predominantly non-Spanish language market?
Haven't thought about it that much, other than sometimes I'll mess up the lyrics and no one's gonna know. I'm more confident when I do it, which means that the performance is better. It's more true to who I am. Mm-hmm. So it's always good if you're pretending to be something that you're not and someone that you're not, the commitment to that has to be great so that you don't slip, So if you're gonna create this persona, be 100,000% committed to that. Because this persona is myself, I don't really have to think about it because it's just what I do. And singing in Spanish just happens to be, and it's not like I am so proud to represent the Spanish language. I'm not Spanish. I'm not. Spain is the boogeyman. Too, it's another colonizer language. What I want to do is that I want to do an album in Wayunaiki, like the language of my people, the Wayu, this is our stuff, this is, the music will look like this, sound like this, That is what I want to do, but first I gotta, learn. You gotta learn my way. I gotta experiment. I also don't have the time that that I used to have before having children. So I have to be very intentional in the things that I do. I have to be very organized in the things that I do, because I have to, I only have a 2-hour slot after the baby goes to sleep before I get tired. I have to make sure that I have enough time for my son that's growing up in this world, and he has the what happens after you die questions, but he also has the questions about like, what is birth control? I have to I have to be a mother, and I cannot wait until he turns 12 so that he can learn about birth control. But right now it's like it's all about experimenting, but at the same time knowing who I am. And I actually feel very grateful that I came to live in this new reality at 19 and not at 7, not at 4. I'm able to go every year. I'm keeping up with the slang. So I'm a part of my community. And it's ever changing, and I am a new. I'm showing you that it can be done. Anything with a nice calendar and saving up and not spending money in stupid shit that you don't need. Like, you'll be able to, at least have a good record that's gonna sound decent on whatever the speakers from the laptop.
think it sounds a little better than that. Speaking of slang, let's hear a track that connects you back to your home, but also connects to me, the #1 Rihanna fan. This is a rework of a very well-known Rihanna song, and you called your version Commando. So let's listen to that. So that was your song Commando, which is a rework of Rihanna's work. What can you tell? I like the story of what the song is about. I think it's important.
It is very important because every major song, every major name, Katy Perry, all those like major whatever songs, people will cover them, right? And this song was, I feel like there's probably a Guinness record on how many times this song was reworked. Like the infamous cover of the woman that was like, I am going to sing it so that everyone can understand it, because Rihanna is just singing gibberish, you know? So like I was like, what? And I was like, you know what? Let me see who's doing one in Spanish. And then I was looking at the ones that were done in Spanish, and they were not good. Like, people were translating the words, right? Because there's one thing is a translation, another thing is an interpretation. So for those of us who speak more than one language, we understand that it just doesn't work if you just like translate word by word. So one of the covers, the guy was singing acción, 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 as in work, work, work. Like, action, 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 like the adjective, you know, it's just like, and he was trying to do it in this like romantic way, you know, like just like soft light and like acción, 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 tengo que tener el control. Horrible. Then I saw another one and it was terrible. I was just like, I gotta represent. So I just went to my buddy's studio, Josh Cole. He's a great bassist, based in Toronto. And he has this nice studio, and I was like, let me just put the track. And then I just, you know, did camellando. Camellando means working. That's a slang for work. So when you say, I'm at work, you say, estoy en el camello. Camello means camel. I don't know why we say that, but that's what we say in Baranquilla. You're riding your camel on my camel. Maybe it's because riding a camel is hard and you're working hard. I don't know, but that's what we say. So I just did my interpretation of, you know, what the song was about. That to me was emotional labor. And I was just, you know, drawn from, you know, a lot of street here, like street food is very regulated. You know, it's like food truck. Here's the food truck area for an authentic shawarma. You know, this is regulated, FDA approved, you know, like Colombia, we don't got no regulation for nothing. Like you see a woman in the streets with like oil from 3 months ago, frying up the fries or whatever, with like her 3 kids, you know, like the older kid will be the one taking the deliveries, you know, before Uber Eats, there were Colombian children taking food to your door, you know, but we just don't have the technology to profit from that app. But yeah, so that's where the song came from. And then I like put it out, went to sleep, woke up, and it's like, whoa, Lido Pimienta's come back. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't want this kind of attention for someone else's song. But I took advantage of it. I rode that wave. And it was cool, you know. It's just like, oh yeah, like I should use my SoundCloud more often. Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I should, because Branko emailed me about being in his album and I didn't see it like 6 months later. And then I'm like, yeah, I have this new record, you should be on it. I'm just like, yeah, totally, wait, I'm about to give birth. Let's try the next one. Just lesson, check your SoundCloud inbox. It's not just sex invitations. There's some good. Anyways.
Sounds so polite, a sex invitation.
Yeah. Just, I support sex work.
I'm glad you kind of brought up emotional labor, and I one of the things I appreciate about you so much. I don't really know very many women in my life, and I know a lot of wonderful, strong, talented, busy women. But you really live all aspects of your womanhood, I think, and you, if your baby who's here, shout out baby. She needed you. You
Man,
might bring her up
my
here.
kid is the best.
But like, I don't. It's not easy for women to kind of be like an artist or a journalist or whatever the case may be, and then also be these other things. I mean, how has your art, or maybe it's not your art, like how have you? I hate the question. Where do you get your confidence from? But like, how do you find a way of like living so fully like that? It's not easy.
Yeah, well, I always say just like carry a calendar, just write the stuff down that you have to do, really visualize how you want to see yourself, put it out in the universe. It's very important. To me, I don't surround myself with people that are not creative. I don't waste my time sharing my gifts with people that are only there to take them from me. I don't waste my time with having people around who have no ambition, who have no morals, who have no focus. I don't hang out with people that are just there to hang out. No, if we're gonna hang out, then I'm gonna need you to please take the garbage downstairs while I finish this song. Like a lot of us, growing up with I mean, I didn't grow up with Instagram. I may look it, but I come from a generation that if you wanted something, you really needed to go get it. Like, it wasn't like, now it's like this era of influencers and all this stuff, but even influencers, which their careers are purely based on their aesthetic, they still have to think about their looks, and they still have to have this discipline, and that's how you're going to see the results. And for me, it's like I have to surround myself with friends that can take care of kids, that are confident and that believe in me. So when I go on tour, if I have to leave my son for 2 weeks, I'm not worried. And that only happens if you really build, those relationships with people that are there for you. Like a lot of my friendships and that are no longer, people that are no longer in my life, we had to break up because, my success or my ambition was something that they weren't cool with. They're not cool with it because it's like, well, what about me? And it's just like, well, I'm here for you. We can do it together. But people don't want to do anything together. People want to be the number one, and I want to have my kids. Like, I had my son when I was 21. I wanted to have my son when I was 20 because I had this vision when I'm 40, my son's going to play the piano. I'm going to keep it in the family. Like, that's just like what has to happen. But I had it when I was 21, and I was like, okay, well, close to 20 is fine. And then, I was like, okay, I have this tour. Then at this moment, I'm going to finish the album, and then I'm going to start tour over here. But then the baby's going to be a year old. If I have her in this month, she'll be a year old, and then I'll be able to go on tour again. And that's exactly what I did. I told baby daddy number 2, you better get me pregnant, because it has to happen for 2017, because the album has to be, like, I just have to organize, and like have control of my body, like really know what's happening with my body, like really like download all the tracking period apps and like learn like what is a vagina, what, like really, really understand yourself. And, if you do want to have kids in the industry, in any industry, if you want to have your baby daddy next to you or a partner, like this partner has to be 100,000% with you being the star of the show. Like baby daddy number 2 is all about that. It's like, yes, girl, yes. Become rich so I don't gotta work, girl, yes. Well, that's not what he does, but, he's there for me, and like I'm there for him, and we really are a team. Just like my team, like my management, like they're awesome and they really help me, in the things that I want to do. And I always have a wild idea after another, and you need people to tell you, yes, this is awesome, instead of really. When people start saying that to you, cut. I always say that. And the second thing that I say, if you take a group photo and they post it and they look great and you look a mess, you gotta cut those people off your, cut! Because that's a really simple way of knowing if they care about you or not. In this era where you can find your next lifelong partner on the Instagram, and now the opportunity is over because you look a mess, you gotta cut. So that's how I'm able to do it. Like, that's how I'm able to do it. Like, I am very organized, and I know exactly what I want, and I know exactly how I'm gonna get it. I come from a place where people don't have opportunities, because what opportunities can you have when there's no running water? So we got it good. We got it so good. So why are you spending whatever, $400 a week in weed? Like, why? Justify it to me. It's like Kurt Cobain started smashing guitars after he had money. When he didn't have money, he took care of those guitars, right? Like, that's how he did it. Then he became really rich, and he's like, give me 10 guitars, I'm gonna smash them in this tour. Fine. But right now, it's like, be very careful with, your money and the people around you, because we do, as artists, producers, dancers, writers, whatever, we are, cultural, we hold this cultural power. So we need to be able to use it so that we can grow, so that that cultural power grows. You decide what you want to do with it, but whatever that is what you want to do, you've got to put it in your mood board. You got to put it in the mood board and surround yourself with people that will be there for that vision.
So part of what surrounds you is your actual family, your children, your partner, very close friends. And I think, I really like that about you. You don't have this like very sealed off artist life where you're just around other artists and it's very industry and this, that, and the other. You are, your baby goes wherever you need to go. But for people who are not a parent or maybe don't want to be a parent, I still think that there's something you can pull here when it comes to community. You've talked about it a bit, but maybe just, what is the value of a community? And it doesn't just have to be, people who will come to your show or people who will like play on your track, but beyond that, like, how can community kind of help people in this room and people who are watching build their careers?
Yeah, my community are my comadres. Just a bunch of women that have been there for me since I moved to this place. And we all have a lot of ambition, and we all help each other get to where we want to go. I think it's really good when people say, I don't want to have kids, because there's a lot of us in the world already. And I think a lot of people fantasize to this idea of like parenthood or motherhood. So I think that's really great. Like, it's all about that own ambition and your vision of who you want to be or who you are. So the children thing, will come when you're ready. I need my community to tell me when I'm doing something fucked up, because friends are not just people that are telling you how amazing you are all the time. And I don't have a lot of industry people around me, because unfortunately, when I've met some of my heroes and sheroes in the industry, I get wildly disappointed. Especially people that are surrounded by material wealth. People that don't have the material wealth want that wealth for themselves. So then you get this like culture of like leeches that just want to be a part of that, and because artists, because we are narcissists, because we are very weak emotionally, because a lot of us have been rejected by family members, like especially if you're queer or trans or you're gay or lesbian. Like a lot of us have that story, that backstory of like, my parents love me, I just can't come over for Christmas, like everyone has that story. So when we find people that are telling us we're wonderful, fabulous, amazing, it's dangerous too. So I have people, I have my friends that will be like, "Ooh, girl, your edges are busted," like I need that because I'm not super woman, like I don't have superpowers. So that's why you have friends, so that they can tell you, so you're fucking up, or I support you in your whole journey, but this guy, they're not good for you, girl, and here are the receipts. Like you need that in your life. You need that, to protect yourselves, like, and protect one another. And if I start accepting all of these new friendships, when people come to me and they're like overly like, oh my God, like I love, like crying and stuff, it's just like, I'm just like, I shouldn't have that reaction because you don't know me. And that is something that, I really, people like kids starting in this industry game, like, don't let yourself be fooled and think that everyone has your best interest in mind. Like I started when I was very young. And when I released that first album, because of my being so naive and thinking that everyone had the best intentions for me, I had labels completely taking advantage of me. I've written songs that have been taken from me that have won Latin Grammys. I've had people just straight up like in my house talking and then being interviewed and then saying very smart things that sound exactly what I said in my living room 2 days ago. So like stuff like that, like you have to be very careful with who you let or allow in your personal space. You have to really protect yourself because, it's a very desperate thing. Music is a beautiful thing, but the business of it is desperate. Everyone wants to have that number one, and everyone wants to be they're going on tour and have this like lavish, like proximity to Kylie Jenner or whatever. It's just like, that's not how the world works. This is still a business. You still have this cultural power that you need to really protect. Like, see it as the ring. This is the motherfucking ring. This is your fucking precious. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need that shit, like you can't just let anyone. You need no Frodo here with the stinking feet up in here. No! So that's what I mean. Like, just like, that's why community is important. Like, have only real people by your side. And like, I started with a big group, but now they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Girl, Survivor, The Island, it's like, it's less of us. But it's okay because I love them, and I hope you're watching because I'm watching you too.
So you are signed to Anti Records now. That happened after you won the Polaris Prize in 2017. And I think that's a goal of many musicians, right? To make music so then potentially you can have the support of a label. But you were very DIY before that. So can you talk a little bit about what signing to the label changed for you, just in terms of your artistic process? Here we go. Upside down. So they recently gave this record. Yeah. I do.
So I'll talk about Anti. So for all of us based in this country, we will notice that things move a little slower. Okay? Because our music industry too is like the not as hot cousin for the state, like from the state, Like the US is like super hot and successful, has it all together, badass bitch. And Canada is like the cousin that like just got her braces removed and her confidence is just starting to blossom. You know, like, she just discovered what a tampon is, and she's like, woo! But like the US like has been using the cup for a long time. She's so cool. Like not even the cup, the sponge, you know. We're still in the tampon. I don't know if that made any sense, but so
That's the best analogy for the Canadian music industry I've ever heard.
So I'm not gonna name any names because I don't want to get in trouble, but you know, I've had all this courtship from booking agencies and labels and whatever in Canada, but it never really set. It all stayed in emails and nice conversations at the shows, you know, like I remember like one of the shows we like opened for Sampha, and like all these like music industry people were there, like, we have to bring you to the office. You're amazing. You know, like, yeah, bring me to the office. Yeah, where I go, where I sign. Nothing. But then I would hear from other people in the industry that love me, and they were like, oh, girl, guess who called me, ask if you were cool or not? Or are you trying to tell me that if someone is looking at an artist, they have to check if they're cool enough to be signed or co-signed or, you know, put their money where their fucking mouth is? Like, it's fucked up, you know? Then, after the Polaris thing, and I got management. So Polaris was September 2017. I got management in like June or May 2017. You know, up until then, I had a like different online personas that were my manager. But until I found them, you know, and they like realized like all of these people that I'm interacting with and all the things that I'm doing, like they really helped me organize or help management. And really great. One of them I knew for many years, Rachel. And I was like, great, cool. We go to LA. They like put me in this industry, whatever thing. I kid you not. It took me half an hour opening for all these shitty bands to get Auntie and all these other industry people like actually like, here is what we can offer you. And then for the last 10 years living in this country, right? Because like people there will like take a risk. It's like, I don't need to convince myself that you're a badass bitch or that you're a good performer or a good musician or a good singer, because I'm seeing it with my own eyes right here and I see the people reacting to you. Let's do it. Come to the office. And I went, and that week I went to all these places, and Anti were the people that were more real with me, and that's why I went with them, because I was just like, because they were like, well, what can we do to work with you? And I was just like, well, I don't want my bandmate to have to work for a whole year so that they can help me finish my record and perform it. Okay, good. And then like the contracts are happening, and then like, here's some money that we can give you, and then one more. And then, okay, you know, that part of the negotiation, you know, you need your lawyers and all that stuff. But again, the training label, pre-industry starts with not surrounding yourself with shitty people. Because if you're surrounded by shitty people that are only there to take from you, you are not gonna know how to read a contract properly. And the label will take advantage of you, and they will exploit you.
I think there's a lot of things that people don't ask for, though,
Yeah.
because they're scared of it going away.
Yes.
So, but you were okay
No.
being like, no, my band needs to not, like,
Exactly.
needs to be
Like
okay.
I was just like, I don't want people telling me or giving me a deadline. And these are the numbers of records that I want affiliated. So like, if you want me to do, you know, 6 albums, I'm actually gonna give you 3. Okay? And the first one is gonna be a reissue of the one that I just released. So this is the one that I won the Polaris for. It's La Papessa. I reissue it with new art that I made myself. And like a pretty picture. I was 9 months pregnant here. Look at this. So I was like, yeah, I am gonna do this. And because the guy that runs the label, like he's like, really has this spiritual connection to me, and like we had really great conversations, and I was just like, oh, you really love me. Okay, this is good. This is good for me because I need to know that you actually care about me. Because why? When the tour happens, if I have to open for a huge star or whatever, and I tell them, I need you to help me with this tour because I need to bring 2 nannies, they are going to help you. Like, you have to look and think about it, not in the moment now, like, I'm going to take a picture of Instagram with me signing this contract, whoop, whoop. No, you have to think about 2 years into your contract when you have a product. And I knew that when I saw myself in 2 years into it, it was going to be good because they were really taking care of me. Like, they were treating me, like a person, not like a, this product. And like we did 7 shows at South by Southwest last year, pregnant. And at every single show, the record was there. Like, the label was there, like at every single show. And they were like, how can we help you? We're here. Like, they're based in LA. They don't need to be in Austin for nothing, but they were there, right? So I was just like, but they were, and we were still courting, right? They're still like courting. And I'm like, okay, where? And you test people, and to me, it just worked out, just like really like get you a lawyer when those contracts happen, and like be very sure of what you want. And I'm someone that is extremely involved in my creative process. So all the videos, all the whatever, any campaign, like you best believe that I'm gonna be behind all of it. And they were like, that is exactly what we want. Like, we waste a lot of time coming up with concepts and stuff for a lot of artists, and we don't have to do it with you. So we're actually very excited to work with someone like that. Whereas other people, they're not into it. They really want to tell you how to put the product out there. And some artists, they grow frustrated. And then a lot of artists, you're like, whoa, that record was really good. I don't know what happened to them. A lot of these people that you don't ever hear from again is because you get really disappointed once you enter these arenas. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to do stuff just because. Like, I can take my time. And now I am taking my time. And the record is sounding amazing, and that's exactly what I wanted, and it's happening, and I hope that people receive it, well, I don't know.
Well, let's listen to something from Miss Colombia. I was telling you I have a really hard time picking what song to play because
They're all great.
They are all great. But we're gonna play para transcribir.
No, I thought we were gonna do Eso que tú haces.
Oh yeah, sorry, we can do that one. No problem. This one? What's it called?
Eso que tú haces, which means that thing you do.
So you were saying, yeah, that's not the right version.
It's not the most recent, but it's okay.
Right. This record's not coming out till later this year. So this is a sneak peek. Talk about this new record. I mean, you do have like a concept for it. It's called Miss Colombia, but I'm also curious to know what you're doing musically on this record that maybe you haven't done before.
Yeah, so when I first started writing this album was in 2016. 2016, in the fall, in October, I went to Santiago de Chile, in Chile, to work on Miss Colombia, because I had all these songs. I had MIDI versions of it, and I had like a bunch of, the versions were all voice and woodwinds and brass. So I went to Andres Nusser's studio. This guy, he's this Chilean guy behind this band called Astro. And he had just stopped Astro, and he was like, yeah, like, just come over and let's make some music. So that's when Miss Colombia started. When we were in the studio working on Miss Colombia, I was like, oh, I forgot to put the album out there. La Papessa, and I just like put it out there and I forgot about it. I was just like, goodbye, La Papessa, I'm into Miss Colombia now. So it was like this nice experience where I'm just in Chile arranging, like the pre-demos of that. And that's the week that I contacted Nifty, Prince Nifty, or Matt Smith in Toronto. And I was like, you should come for a couple weeks and just like see how you feel the songs. And that's how it started. upon returning to Toronto, and then like people liked the album, I was like, I guess I gotta go on tour now. And then got the short list and the whatever, and then like I had to stop. But I always knew that Miss Colombia was going to be a revisit of those songs like Chambacu, you know, lots of clarinets, lots of porro, lots of repetition, you know, like musically the things that have influenced me. It's like my album where I go back to my country after being told by all the white supremacists to go back to my country. It's like, yes, I'll go then. And I'm gonna make gold. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I started reconnecting with the traditional groups that I grew up listening to. I started reconnecting with, you know, like the singing that formed me as a singer, that was, you know, singing in the streets, singing in carnival, you know, projecting without a microphone or without a PA, projecting in the middle of the street with 5,000 people here and 5,000 people here watching you. Like, how do you project for hundreds of people with your voice? And I was like, I need to remember that, because the snow and the weather really like weighs you down. So I needed that injection of life. And going to Colombia to me is always this sour thing. It's like, it's beautiful, but it's also really hard. It's happy, but it's also very sad, especially with what's happening with Venezuela and how we're getting this influx of very talented, very amazing Venezuelans that now are selling candy in the streets or working for very, 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 very cheap, and Colombia really exploiting that. And the fear of not becoming Venezuela is what made the government be what it is now. So all of these things, you know, it's just like, you know, there is so much material here. I really need to start looking at myself. So in terms of sound, you know, all those are the elements. And my favorite was going to San Basilio de Palenque, which is the first free town from slavery in all of the Americas, the home to many singers. You know, like if people here have ever heard like remixes of Colombian music, you know, you've heard of these singers. Only that the singers are living in poverty, you know, living in houses that are falling apart, if they have a house. You know, these singers like Los Alegres Ambulancias, you know, they will be selling, you know, their candy in the streets. You know, this group that I grew up with called Sexteto Tabala, you know, they've been a group for almost 100 years, right? So it goes from generation to generation of the family members. It's tradition. And their oldest member and their main singer and songwriter, his name is Rafael Cassiani. He's 89 years old. He doesn't have a pension, even though he has written so many songs that we hear over and over again, not just in Carnival, but in Afro-Colombian diaspora. So because they've given me so much, I was like, I'm gonna go make a song with them. So Miss Colombia has become, it's just not just a record, it's a language, is, you know, it's a study, it's a thesis, is my PhD, you know. It's just like, I hate academia, but if that was like the route that I would have taken had I been let my teachers to convince me when I was in university, this is the work that I would be doing. It's just like, no, we have to make sure that this traditional music is compensated. We have to make sure that this traditional music keeps living on, and that Colombian traditional music lives on properly, archived properly. Not like what happens now. If you want the really good archival content, you have to go to France. Go to the vault in France, just like, you know, like African artifacts are in like London, you know, or like gold stolen from indigenous people all over the Americas is in England, you know, like it's the same with music. And if we don't start looking at music as this precious, one of a kind, important works, we're not gonna move forward, right? Because the canon, why is a fucking Picasso protected, but not a fucking Sexteto Tabala song, right? So like the canon needs to change. Like there has to be a shift in what we see as the canon in arts and culture, you know, because the Picasso ripped off African cultures for years. everyone knows that, right? Like,
There was a show about that in Montreal.
well, I don't know, but that's what it is. Like, it's like Modigliani, the same, like all this motherfuckers. So, anyways, we should play the song.
Should we play a
Quiero que
sexteto
me
song?
salves. Yeah, the one. Well, whatever
Should
you
we play
want.
one of their
One of
songs?
their songs, yeah.
Even though now I feel bad pressing play.
It's
on.
okay because they are gonna get paid, boo.
Okay.
Here's Sexteto Tabala from San Basilio de Palenque.
So that was Agua by Sexteto Tabala, and so now we'll listen to the track that you recorded with them, and we'll hear the donkeys in the background and the truck rumbling by. Introduce this song because
Quiero que me salves.
and sneak peek from Miss Colombia. Why are you laughing?
I laugh because all I can hear is they're not in the right pitch, but it's okay. But it's great. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and sharing your new music and giving us language and space to talk about ways to be better people in the world. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lido Pimienta. Let's do some questions. Is there, I can pass the mic, but questions?
Also, shout out to my baby, 7 months old, behaving better than all of you.
Hi, Lido. Just wanted to say thank you so much for speaking to us. That was very insightful. And I want to ask you a question that I think about a lot myself as somebody who looks into my music and music from my culture, and I'm incorporating that in my music. And a lot of what you said today was getting my gears going about that. And it's a tough question, and it's something I think about, and I always feel so many different ways about this. And I don't think there is particularly a right answer, so it is a very tough question with maybe an ambiguous answer. So me being a first-generation immigrant, but never grew up where I am from, which is Bangladesh. My parents lived there, but I grew up outside of that. So with that, comes a degree of maybe privilege that maybe other 25-year-olds or children in Bangladesh don't get to have. So I see that as a way that it might be different, my perspective of how I see things. And in playing classical Indian music through my family, my mom and my brother and myself. And now that I'm incorporating this in my music, and I'm not making any money per se, really, but I want to be able to at least bring, an understanding of where this music comes from, what it represents, and be able to offer that. Is that enough, or what can we do to I guess when you don't really have money, when you're trying to figure out how you're gonna make your rent at the end of the month, because I can't ask my mom for money, that's for sure. Single mother, that's how it is. So when I put instruments from my culture in my music, but I don't really see any money out of it. But how can I help the people through this when I'm currently not really in a position outside of just being able to direct them to resources or just talk to them about what this is, where it comes from, how it was made, etc. And yeah,
Okay.
Do you know where I'm coming from here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the album number 3, and the first time that I've had support for one of my records. So I've had this idea of working with Sexteto Tabala for the last 10 years, but I needed to wait until the time was right that I could go back and be with them. I've known them since I was 13 years old. right? So I actually had a relationship with them. So I was able to confidently be in the community, and I brought money, like I saved up for it, I put it in the budget, and that's what I did. If I put myself in your shoes, what I see is a man from Bangladesh. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you're not a white kid, you're not Canadian kid, so you still have to be in the world, existing in your skin. So there's still a lot of things that are a lot of doors that won't just open for you. So you have to, don't like, oh, like, I'm this martyr and I don't know what to do and I want to use my culture, but I also don't want to exploit it. No, because it is who you are, right? So you have to learn, you know, save up, take a trip.
It is a part of, sorry to interrupt you, it is a part of who I am, but it is not all that I am, which I also understand.
For sure, because this is who we are. Like I lived in the city all my life. I didn't live in the desert. I went there and it was a part of my experience growing up, but I can tell you more Nickelodeon shows that I can tell you in traditional YU songs, right? So that's how Lido Pimienta exists. You know, like I am not waving the flag of anything but myself. And when you get to the point where you can make coin from your music, you will know how you're going to find the ways. And it might be that you're gonna go down there and you're gonna sample the musicians, and you're gonna pay them, give them the money, and you're gonna create an account so that anything that comes, you're gonna share with them. A lot of us, like my close friends, like this amazing producer and musician called Chancha Villa Circuito, like he goes a lot into, you know, the jungle, and he works with indigenous people in the south of South America, and that's what he does. You know, it's like it's all about the context. It's all about doing what you're supposed to be doing, not just taking, but also if you're just starting out and you're experimenting with samples and you're not making money, it's fine, because you are discovering yourself. You are finding out who you are, and it's only gonna happen through trial and error. So if I were you, I wouldn't really hit myself too hard in the head, because you're walking your path. You're like living your truth, and we're born here, you live here, but your culture is who you are, your mother, your relatives. So I would just recommend, like I just went back and I discovered all this whole new set of family that I had no idea that existed. And I go to their house and they all happen to be bullerengue singers. And now I understand a lot of why I sing the way that I sing, you know. So you will be surprised, and you will find the ways that you're going to help your community and have them. And it's also like, help my community because I am the best. No, it's like participate in the community, collaborate with your community, because let me tell you, these people in these communities where they are oppressed and live in these oppressed communities and governments and corruption and all that stuff, like their music is better than ours, their talents are better than ours, like their music is better, everything they do is better. So it's just like, I'm just trying to be like them. I'm just trying to be like Sexteto and make every single song that they have amazing with this smallest elements, you know? So, yeah, just, you're doing it, boo.
Thank you for the answering this really hard question. Big ups.
It's not that hard.
Maybe if anyone else has a question, just pass the mic around.
I just want to hear more about your experience as like a mother, and how do you turn that switch on and off as like an artist, being on stage and at home you're like yelling at your kid, and how much pros and cons that had like impact on your career, and if like your family is your like source of your inspiration of like as an artist.
I don't really scream at my son. I throw chanclas at him. You know what a chancla is? It's a flip-flop. So let's get that straight. I am an artist that happens to be a mother. Like, first and foremost, I happen to be a mother, and I fucking love kids. I love my kids. I'm helping raise my nephew. Like I love it. Like it's a part of who I am, and it gives me a lot of inspiration because I love also to be a woman. And I am very lucky that I grew up as a cisgendered bitch. Like I fucking like so I love it. I love it. So because of that, it's not like I have to turn it on and off. I just continue being my truest self because I really love it, you know. The things that I do, you know, now that when we start touring, what's gonna happen is that my manager is gonna be side stage with the baby in the stroller. And the baby's gonna be with her protective headphones on, and she's probably gonna be eating like a chocolate bar. You know, like that's the only thing that worries me is like I'm gonna have to bribe my baby. You know, it's like yes, you could have breast milk, but look at this Snicker bar. You know, like, you know, that's the only thing that I really have to worry about because I've been a mother since I was 21 years old. So I've been doing this, you know, and like you figure it out as you go. My situation is different than your situation. If you ever have kids you have to bring on tour or whatever, you're going to see what your situation is going to be better. And then again, this idea of friends, you know, one of my best friends, Jennifer Arango, like she's an amazing doula. She was my doula. So when the money's there, like some shows that I've done in LA since giving birth, I bring her with me because the money was good. So it's like, okay, cool. And even if the money wasn't good, you prioritize on the expenses and you bring it into the expenses that you need. You know, in your expenses is daycare, you know, childcare. So you bring in your friend, you hook up your friend, and you have peace of mind. Because sometimes my son, he's over the shows. He's over it. He's just like, you know what? I think people want to listen to me now. Like, we have this very strange relationship, you guys. Anyway, so he doesn't like to come on tour. So he likes to stay home. He likes to stay home and we FaceTime every day. So now we'll see what kind of baby I'm going to have. And I was like, you know what? I can have a career as a musician on stage, perform. But if I have this baby and this baby is not into it, I might just write songs for other people. And you can still make a living out of it. For me, it's not about I have to be seen. For me, it's about I have to put the music out there. Like I just have to put it out there, and I will be happy just putting the stuff online or writing for other musicians because I still have to make a living. But yeah, like if you're planning on it, you know, just know that it is possible. Just as long as you let the venues know too. And I feel like we have a responsibility, you know, men and women, to normalize parenthood and motherhood. Like we have to normalize it. We have to make sure, like, we are the ones that are making these venues money. It's us, right? Like we bring people to the party and they will buy the beers and whatever. So the least that they can do is that they can have a decent green room where you can, you know, bring your mom and your mom's there with your kids while you perform for the hour or whatever. Like, if you think about it, I can be with my baby all day long. Today, the commitment was we're sitting here and the baby's around. And I was like, if she cries, bring me the baby and I'll breastfeed her and she'll be fine. She's cool, you know. And for the shows, I can have my baby on me. But I know that I'm going to play for an hour and a half tops. The baby's going to be fed right before I go on stage, and she's going to be nice, asleep, or whatever. So it is possible. To me, there's no really like a mystery. You know, I was raised by a single mother too. So it just comes. You know, bus drivers have children, right? Like, how do they do it? You know, I feel like a bus driver has a way harder time to manage childcare than me, that I can bring my kid with me, you know.
Thank you.
Hello. I just had a question about your experience with collaboration, because this group of people in this event is very collaboration forward, and as someone without very much experience collaborating with people from different genres and skill sets and whatnot, I was wondering if you had any insights or things that surprised you about what was similar between you and someone else, or what was like a hardship you had, and how you kind of navigate the space of collaborating with people from such a diverse sample group of genres. Yeah.
First of all, your hair is fabulous.
Thank you.
Second of all, collaboration is a core element in the Lido Pimienta landscape. Because I am a singer, and because I am a great singer, everybody wants to work with me. And that's actually how I started. I started singing and writing the songs for other, for producers and for bands. And I have more, my catalog collaborating, the songs in this catalog of collaborations are bigger than my own catalog of songs that I officially released. And that was a great practice because we shouldn't fall into Enya territory. You know who Enya is? So Enya, you know, sail away, sail away, sail. She's great, but she also lives in a castle, isolated from the world, and she only listens to her own music, right? So facts. She's very proudly, she's like, I don't listen to no Beyonce. I listen to myself, you know? So I feel like that's why the album sounds like everything that she makes is so odd and like disconnected. And that's why I like it. But we should really use our strength. Like collaboration is the opportunity to use your strength and experiment, and putting work forth that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily do on your own, right? So songs with A Tribe Called Red, for example, like The Light, you know, like I wouldn't really put something out like that by myself. And they took that song and then they turned it into 3 songs, and it's been really great to see how far that song goes. It's also great when the songs are good, you know? So in my experience, I've recorded on horrible music just because I need to put myself out there. And when I hear those songs, I just cringe. Like, it's just, it's horrible. Because I was doing it because I just have to, you know, you feel this pressure that you have to put yourself out there. You know what? It's better if you only put excellent work out there that you are proud of than a lot of songs that are out there just because you had the opportunity to do them. So I think that's the most valuable advice that I can give you is only put it out if you really believe in it. And set the boundaries before you set any music down, because I also made the mistake of, here's the song, and then I hear it back and I mean, we're just not in sync. Like whatever they're listening to for me sounds out of sync. You know, like so many remixes that people are like, and this is gonna be in an HBO series. And I'm like, oh, really? It sounds horrible. Like, where is the 1? Like, where is the 2? Like, where is the 3? Like, what is happening? Because I didn't put those boundaries and I didn't get that, like, the rules, the game rules before, you know, the stuff went into mixing and mastering, you know. So yeah, like have those honest conversations, be very respectful, of course. Like there's no need into fighting with people, but always be very stern. Like your experience might be different than mine. Like I am a woman. I am brown and I sing like a little girl, and like, I have this like high-pitched voice, and people think that I'm adorable. Like happens all the time. You know, I also don't, you know, I do look adorable. Like, you know, like it's like this fight that I have, but I do choose to look like this. Like I do present myself in this type of way. But it still like should be respected because of my qualifications and my experience. But a lot of people would just like the last thing that happened is this producer in LA. I did a session with this Mexican artist. We did our song, everything was good. And I also gave her this extra stuff for her to use in the future because I trusted her. The engineer took it upon himself to present the songs for this like big contract thing, whatever. And I didn't like it. Like, I didn't even like what he did, and I told him straight up, I was like, who gave you permission? Because he emailed me, not even to tell me, I am going to put this song in this whatever to whatever. He said, can you please send me the translation of these words? And I was like, who the fuck are you? And he was like, whoa, 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 hysterical woman. Why are you, this is good for you. It's just like, no, it's not good for me because I am not reading this contract. Whatever the fuck you're reading, whatever opportunity got your way, you're using my voice without my consent, right? So that's not collaboration. But back when I started 10 years ago, I did that so many times and I didn't know that it was wrong. So yeah, set your boundaries and only work on stuff that you really truly believe in because it's gonna come to haunt you. And it's horrible. Like that feeling of being participant in something that is mediocre is a terrible feeling. So avoid that, be diplomatic and be respectful, and just bring your best game. Don't hold back, don't hold back, because that's another thing when we collaborate. Oh, I really shouldn't give them that bass line is like really, really too sick. Like I should just use it myself. It's like, no, like you will continue to write amazing bass lines. Like put your best work forward. It will pay off. Don't hold back, because we're also procrastinators. And then that sick bass line is going to be hidden and no one's going to hear it in the next 10 years. So just put it out, put your music out, because this is the practice. We're in this practice and we really need to be committed to it. And the more music that you write, the better musician that you're gonna be. The more stuff that you put out, the better artist that you're going to end up becoming.
Hey Lido, what's up? So you mentioned earlier about only waving the flag of Lido Pimienta and not necessarily representing flags, capital F. So in an industry and in a paradigm, especially in the Canadian context, where there's always a hyphen of Indigenous Afro-Latina artist wins Polaris, blah, blah, blah. You get exactly what I mean. How do you navigate the pigeonhole in the award shows, in the CBC interviews, in this interview? I'm sure it wasn't just Lido Pimienta. I'm sure it was Polaris Prize, Afro-Latina. How do you navigate that pigeonhole, if you will?
I just pick my battles. Sometimes it's worth it to address it. Sometimes it's not worth it to address it. I've learned that the hard way after the prize, after the Halifax Pop Explosion debacle, after like all of that stuff. Like now, the online harassment and the bullying and the stuff that I experience on the daily, like I feel like I have toned it down so much in the things that I say, the way that I express myself. Like I am very selective into the things that I decide to just like tell it like it is, because sometimes there's no point. The monster is too big, and I still have to protect myself. I still have to protect my children, and sometimes, like now, it's becoming where I get a little bit of this more of a saying in how I want to be introduced. So people will send me like, is this the bio? Is this description good? How do you want us to introduce yourself? And I'm like, artist. At the same time, I also know that it's not gonna be like this forever. I mean in the future, it's not gonna be like this forever, where we're just going to be artists that happen to be born in a different country or happen to speak a different language. It's going to come. And I understand, because history and herstory has taught me that someone has to start it and the rest of us will follow. So I know that I am someone in history and herstory that is setting this precedent, and maybe it's gonna change. And I'm very proud of being Afro-Colombian. I'm very proud of being indigenous. So when you put it out there, it's like, yes, motherfucker, the black indigenous has a right. Like, it's sometimes it is important too. Like let them know. Say it to the people in the back. Like it just depends on also too in who's saying it, because some people need to hear it. You know, indigenous people need to see other indigenous people killing it and doing good things. Or actually, no, like Madame Gandhi taught me, don't say killing it, say fertilize it. People that are fertilizing it, own it and be glad, you know. So it's also good. Like it really is about the context, really, because some people will say it because they want to start some shit, and you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared, because there's a lot of fake journalists out there that will use you as clickbait, and it just comes with the territory. And again, if you have a good crew, you won't be Britney in 2007. Like, have a good crew, right? Because when you need to cry, someone will take your tears seriously, and they're gonna be there for you, and they're like, yes, girl, here is some ice cream, let's watch Project Runway, it's gonna be okay. Like, you need your crew to help you with that, because sometimes, you know, most times it's gonna be awkward, most times is horrible, like most times is not pleasant. Like this that's happening right now, this isn't it all the time. Most times it's, I go to a show, my name is big written outside, and they still just acknowledge my baby daddy number 2, you know, like, or my other bandmate. Like, it always happens, you know. Like, I had this guy telling me, you know, he couldn't figure out my setup, and he was like, I know what we can do. You can use my microphone that is really good for female voices. And that was a moment where I had to decide, what do I want to fight this guy now, or, and I didn't. Because I knew if I called him out, the sound for the show was gonna be a piece of shit. So I was just like, I have a little cold right now. I don't wanna get anyone else sick. I'm gonna stick to my microphone, thank you. But when the show was done, he heard it, right? So it's just like that, like, just own it. Just own it. I am indigenous, I am black, I am Colombian, I am a mother, I am a Polaris Prize winning artist, you know, I am a badass bitch, so.
Thank you so much.